the whole of justice.
Sechs, sechs, sechs.
It's Spook Show, Jason Shepard back. Another Monday for the mind. Boils and ghouls. It's time to get your mind right. With Jason Shepard. All Spooktober long.
We've been dead a long time.
Let's get it started.
Wow, what a great intro
Stop.
that was. Fantastic. Always delivering.
Pretty spectacular. Spooktacular.
Spooktacular, in fact.
Pretty spooktacular.
Yes. Our first one back normal. We did Mondays on the Move last week at the old Boo Crew Haunted House. If you haven't been yet, you should make plans to. The clock is ticking.
All these updates now. This shit's popping up over here for me and stuff. I hate it.
Today we have somebody returning that we talked to back in July. Welcome, filmmaker Dillon Brown.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up,
great.
man?
After our last talk, we were like, man, we've got to have this guy back. We had such a blast talking last time. I mean, hell, we've been talking for 15 minutes already, just shooting the shit.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun last time, and I just remember they kept asking me, so are those like buddies of yours that you make movies with and stuff? And I said, well, not yet. You know, I just kind of met them when we were doing the podcast, and a lot of people were like, oh, it really sounded like three buddies just like literally shooting the shit, you know. And so that was cool, because I've been on some podcasts where it starts to feel like really weird with me and the host, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, like, what are they going to ask, or how can I be with them? And then with you guys, it's just like, we're just chilling.
Yeah.
That's our intention. You know, I think sometimes people come on here and think that this is like an interview thing, and usually the interview thing is just to get the conversation rolling. We're more about the conversation, the hang. So, and this time around, I mean, we can obviously plug your projects coming up and stuff, but this is a nice little Halloween hang with Dillon Brown.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Favorite time of the year. Been waiting all year to get back to October, pretty much. I love how the weather gets. I love the movies. Maybe I'll watch Halloween Town this year. Who knows?
Yeah, you know, I don't think I've watched that one in a while, but there's one that I need to watch this year because somehow it slipped my mind. I don't even know if it slipped my mind last year or just because like the whole new baby thing last year and he was still so little that I just sort of kind of forgot. I didn't watch Trick or Treat last year, and it was like killing me. It was like I felt like
I went to the theater last year to see it. Did we not? I think.
Oh,
that was
really?
last
Yeah,
year.
we did.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You see, I felt like I betrayed my like brethren by not watching it. It's just this, like it's been like a void in my soul I need to fill. So
that's one that
watch
really
it twice this year.
That one really went under the radar too when it first dropped. I remember seeing it, I think at Walmart, and being like, I don't know, I guess it looks all right. I'll buy this and see what it's about. And it slapped.
Yeah. It was in development hell for a long time, or I don't even know if it was development hell necessarily as it was distribution hell.
I think that's what it was.
They had trailers coming out like at least 2-3 years before it ever actually saw the light of day.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like I remember seeing footage from it, but it's like they didn't have the. I don't know if they were worried about it not doing well or something, and they wanted to just like have like a straight to, DVD release or something. But I remember, and this was such a funny this is such a weird memory that I have, but I remember the first time I started seeing trailers for it again, like when we were actually going to get it, and it kept saying from one of the producers of X-Men 2, and I'm like, who cares? Like, what is? Why is that being pushed so hard?
I mean,
and I'm pretty
X-Men
sure
2
if
was
that's
pretty lit.
that's the producer I'm thinking of. They don't put his name on anything anymore. They're usually like,
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Um,
man.
yeah, and the director of Trick or Treat has made not one but 2 yearly traditions for me, because Trick or Treat in October and Krampus and
Oh,
in
Krampus
December
is
is a must.
Plus, Michael Dougherty killed it with Godzilla King of the Monsters for me.
Mhm.
I thought that was like so fun. And to me, I was like, oh, this is what happens when you give like a monster kid like $150 million to just go
Yeah.
nuts. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna just destroy everything. And it was so much fun. I was a big fan of that. So I'm like, give him more stuff. I want to see what else he wants to play with.
Yeah, they've had a lot of fun directors on that series.
Yeah.
Because Adam
Wingard.
Wingard took over and now he's at the helm, and he for the longest time was a big influence on me as a horror director, because him and his partner Simon Barrett, they were a writing directing team, came out with a lot of cool stuff there for a minute with VHS, The Guest. I think they did some ABCs of Death segments. Tons of other stuff. You're Next.
Yeah.
And then he started doing big boy stuff. And I was like, hey, I love to see it.
Yeah, it's exact same thing for me. I kind of worshipped those guys because it's like when they did their first film ever, it was like something like I Didn't Come Here to Die or something, I think is what it was called.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I can't think of the exact title for it. It's something but I remember watching that and kind of being like, this movie was really not made for very much money, and it's like holding my attention. It's really cool. And then when they put out You're Next, I went to the theater to go see it. And I remember sitting in the theater and there was all these people talking, and like nobody recognized any of the actors in You're Next. I remember hearing people saying like, is this a foreign movie? Because they didn't know, all the names were popping up and nobody knew who anybody was. But I was a huge, huge fan of that. And then The Guest to me is like that is like my movie that I pitch to every single person I meet. If they haven't seen a lot of movies, or they talk about like, do you have any recommendations? The Guest, I'm just like, that movie caught me by surprise so hard. I love it.
That was one that took me so long to get around to watching. I wanted to for the longest time because I was a big Adam Wingard fan. I'd been hearing really great things about it. And then by the time I finally did watch it, like a couple years ago, it's an excellent Halloween movie. The whole thing takes place on or around Halloween. So add it to your rotation. That's a great one.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I got it on DVD. I'll slide it your way.
Yeah, it's got like a perfect blend of kind of like awkward comedy, but then like ultra serious, crazy stuff happens too, and then camp, and then like kind of some
got like that 80s action camp.
And then exactly right. It brings in some kind of like just out of nowhere plot devices where you're like, what is even happening, but you don't care. And
it's a good time.
It's so cool. And Simon actually is like the nicest dude. He took the time to engage in a conversation with me on Twitter one time that actually carried over to Facebook. We became Facebook friends, and it's not like I'm not going to say that we talked forever or had like some best friend talk or whatever, but he gave me some pieces of advice when I was talking about like working on my own stuff. And just the fact that he took the time, he's a guy that like I worshiped his stuff, and he talked to me a little bit was really big for me. And then when Josh, Horror Dadz, Josh Brucker, my partner with Horror Dadz, went to go make The Woodman, The Woodman, coming soon, by the way, from Horror Dadz. They got Elsie Holt from You're Next, who worked with Adam Wingard and Simon and stuff. So now I have this like really cool 6 degrees of separation from Adam Wingard and Simon Barrett because of LC,
Awesome. That's actually the second time I've heard that about Simon Barrett. I had a friend of mine meet him at Sundance in their around the Your Next days. She met him then and had nothing but good things to say about him. I think they also became friends on Facebook, and yeah, I've always heard good things about him.
He's super. Did you watch his movie that he did, Seance? It was his first directorial debut.
Mm.
It's interesting. It's got his definite kind of wonky way of subverting expectations in a lot of ways. But it's an interesting movie because it also is like kind of heavily cliched in a way that I never saw he and Adam do together.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like Simon showed some like nerves as a first-time director, which made me feel like, okay, it's totally normal to feel this way when you do these projects, you know. But you guys should check that out if you get a chance, because it is an interesting movie, and it totally has the Simon, you know, feel to it for sure. You'll pick up on some things. You're like, yeah, only Simon Barrett would write that.
Yeah. So you said you threw on all H2O earlier to get in the mood. Let's talk some movies to get us in the Halloween spirit. What are some go-tos?
I would say, yeah. So, I mean, I usually always start off kind of as I'm easing into Halloween. It's not like I ever really have to ease into it. I live my life as if Halloween is just like kind of perpetually there, you know? But I always usually watch a Michael Myers movie because it's the penultimate, you know, kind of Halloween thing. So it gets me going. But I would say for me, I have some unconventional movies that I watch to get into the mood. And it's purely based on, do you guys remember, and I don't even know, maybe they still do it, when AMC would always do those like horror-thon?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was a kid, they were doing it. And one of the things I always did with my mom was, because my dad was usually either working, he was a paramedic for a long time, so he worked, you know, late at night or whatever. Or sometimes it was frankly because he was in the trauma field, you know, for so long that horror movies to him just didn't really do much. He's like, I live this all the time. I don't really want to go watch somebody's leg get cut off. I just saw that, you know, in real life. And so he would avoid stuff sometimes. But it was always my mom and I watching scary movies together. And I remember for so many Halloweens as a little kid, we would stay up super late at night watching that AMC Fear Fest thing. And that was kind of my introduction to a lot of classic horror movies that didn't necessarily take place on Halloween, but I associate them with Halloween because that's when I first saw them. So one of the ones I have to watch every year, because the first time I saw it was with my mom on Halloween, was American Werewolf in London. And then I watch The Faculty all the time. That one, it has like nothing to do with Halloween, but for some reason that movie just, I have to watch it.
It's excellent.
The Relic. I always watch The Relic.
Okay.
And there's one more. There was a fourth one that it is. Oh, The People Under the Stairs.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, the People Under the Stairs was like the first one. I remember we turned that marathon on, and that one came on, and I didn't know what it was. I just kind of like came into the movie halfway through, and there's like Ving Rhames being attacked by Dobermans, and some dude running around in like BDSM sex gear with a shotgun. And I was like, and I'm looking at my mom, and she's just like, it's the 80s, you know, it's like, and I'm thinking like, is this what everybody did in the 80s?
Right. No, those are all classics, you know, like a lot of those movies I remember growing up, just like you're saying, like I always remembered on Friday the 13th, they just had a marathon of Friday the 13th movies on like USA or something. So I know like this year, that's gotta be a must. I mean, I know there's a lot of great stuff dropping on Friday the 13th, but I'm gonna sneak some.
Yeah.
Getting one in October is so cool.
I believe including things from everybody present. I believe Horror Dadz has a release October 13th, as do we.
What a great segue.
How about that? Yeah.
So you guys are dropping
The Exorcism of Chase and Shep.
That is so cool.
This Friday the 13th.
That is so cool. And we will be representing Dustin Tamplin's sophomore effort. I think he's trying to let everybody think this is his first movie, because his real first movie, You know somebody's not happy with it when they immediately announce they're making a second movie when the first one like just came out, you know. And so I started laughing. I'm like, been there, bro. Totally been there. I feel you. But yeah, Dustin's got Lights Over Montgomery County, or as I kept accidentally auto-correcting in all of our messages to Bridges of Madison County for some reason.
Right.
And so then it became this hilarious joke that, you know, he was making like a schmaltzy Clint Eastwood romance movie. But yeah, Lights Over Montgomery County hitting the same day as Exorcism of Chase and Shep on Scareplex.
Because have you announced a release date for Split Screen yet?
Split Screen does not have a release date yet.
Okay. Well,
basically, what we're doing with that,
when that time comes, before then, satiate your double feature, taste for, with Exorcism and Lights Over Montgomery County.
I agree. I'll give you guys kind of the first. You'll be like the exclusive announcement for this as far as Split Screen goes, because we haven't said this anywhere. Split Screen will actually be it's almost done, and it will be shopped around this year for distribution with a potential, actually not a potential, with like almost a guaranteed release this year. We are actually probably not going to announce the release date. It will be a surprise drop. So we know it's coming soon, and we will know, but we're not necessarily going to advertise to build a bunch of tension and, because most of the time people don't watch it the day it comes out anyway. Usually they're like, oh, I didn't realize this has been out for 3 weeks. I'm going to go watch it. So we thought, well, how fun would it be to just like pop into these groups where people are always sort of talking about our work and just be like, hey, guess what, guys, tonight, and then just drop a link to the movie right away. You can watch this new movie that we've told you hardly anything about. And where the little teaser that you guys saw is the only trailer that will be out there. We're not cutting any others. There will be no other posters coming out. This is very much a very, very secret project. So when it does hit, everyone will be going in very much in the same shoes. There will be nobody knowing more about the movie than the next person. So
I like that. I like that.
We thought it'd be fun. I remember being a kid, and if I saw a trailer for a movie, it was like I remembered one trailer, and usually when I went to go see the movie, I had no idea what was coming. And then it's like when we got older, and I'm sure you guys remember too, it seemed like through the mid, 2008 to about 2015, trailer cutting was like a complete lost art, to where you just saw like the entire movie in trailers, and there'd be like 100 different versions of the trailer.
Yeah. I think Batman vs Superman was the one that really stuck out to me, where it was like there's so many good surprises. Save it for the fun.
Yeah, that and Suicide Squad dropped their trailers at the same time, and I was like, wow, these trailers are almost 4 minutes long. That wasn't necessarily a good thing.
Yeah,
those trailers were excellent. The movies did not.
I remember there was a trailer for Tears of the Sun with Bruce Willis, which actually I still love the movie. It's actually probably one of my favorite action movies ever. But in the trailer, they spoiled like the big like final shot from like the battle and stuff. And so when I was watching the movie, I remembered back to the trailer, and I'm like, oh, this is when that's going to happen. And since I had seen it in the trailer fresh, it totally ruined what was going to happen.
I felt that way about, I think it was the second Jurassic World.
Yes.
They had the trailer that they kept playing where the T-Rex was in the lion cage or whatever. And they marketed the shit out of that scene. And it was like the final shot of the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, you sold a very different movie than what we got.
Yep, I agree. Now, I'm a huge, I think we've talked about it before, and you can see it all behind me there, big Jurassic Park guy. But I felt the same way. There were so many trailers for Fallen Kingdom that I felt like I wanted to take all the trailers and cut them together and make like a long extended trailer with all their trailers. And I think it would have basically told you the entire movie. Because you're right. The way they marketed the movie made it look like we were having them running amok all over, the mainland, and it's going to be crazy. But that's not what we got.
No.
I like the gothic horror element that they went with like one kind of on the loose inside the mansion. It was really cool.
Mhm.
But don't give us a shot like that, this MGM lion roaring with a
Right.
Tyrannosaurus
Right.
Rex roaring and thinking like, oh, here we go. And then, yeah, you're right. It's like a 14-second sequence at the end of the movie.
It just goes to show. I mean, marketing really goes a long way.
Yeah.
There's one thing to have like misleading marketing, like Marvel does sometimes, where they'll like take things out of the trailer to keep a surprise. Like I don't mind that, but like to blatantly lie about what your movie is, like through your marketing, or we've seen movies get killed by their marketing before, where it's like, I feel like something like Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom probably would have done better if the trailers were more honest about what the movie was we were getting, because we all went into something and got something else. But one that comes to mind, I don't know if you've seen The Empty Man.
Yes.
But that was a movie that they didn't even know how to market. They didn't even begin to know how to market that movie, and they just silently dumped it in 2020 into theaters and tried to kill it. And now it's begun to get this cult following. People are like, this is actually an excellent movie, but it's like, I understand if Disney got their hands on that movie, they're like, what the fuck do we do with this?
Yeah, I agree. I thought so. I think I stumbled upon it. It was like a random thing. I was like scrolling through Vudu or something, and it was like this poster pops up, and I'm like, oh, cool, another $14 horror movie that somebody made for $15 and is selling for $14 on Vudu, and it's like I'm gonna watch it, and it's gonna be shot with a home video camera, because I've fallen for cool posters in the past. I thought like, oh, this could be great, and then I turn it on, and I'm like, no, this is so bad. But I think I'm pretty sure it was like I said, screw it, I'm gonna go for it, and I ended up watching it, and I was like blown away. So for a movie to have like a 20-minute opening before you even get the title sequence, was like the biggest kick ever, because I'm like, these guys know what they're doing. These guys know what we expect, and they're not giving us what we expect.
It's
and then
a trip of a movie.
It just goes like totally batshit bonkers by the end of it. That movie is just wild.
The Empty Man. I haven't. I don't know if I'm frozen or if Chase is frozen here.
It's the Empty Man.
It was me, I think. I think it was me.
Yeah, I was like, I glitch out so much over here that I had to stop for a second and be like, is it me? Is it him? I think it's Chase. Like, I think I don't think I've checked.
It was me this time.
I remember you being real hype on The Empty Man though, Chase, but I don't know if I've watched that one either yet.
Yeah, it's another good one. Like I said, for me, it's the fact that movie even exists. The fact that a big studio movie, that was in the fuck it days of Fox, when they were like, whatever, dude, make whatever you want. And he's like, okay. I will say I've read the comic that it's based on. Very different, totally different. Like, I mean, the comic book, to say that the movie is based on the comic book, it's like, there's like some loose ideas from the comic book in there, but they're definitely two very different things. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not for everybody, I will say that. I mean, it's one of those like slow burn cosmic horror. It's not going to give you all the answers. Yeah, but
very much it's ballsy, I'll say, because you release a horror movie that you barely marketed because you didn't know how to, because there is no way it would be so hard to cut a trailer for that movie,
right?
But you also release a movie that's like 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and horror movies that eclipse 2 hours,
right?
Especially with like really heady source material, you're asking for people to just click out and say, nah, I'm good, I'm fine. Yeah, but true. I was fascinated by the movie, and it had one other thing that's really cool is it has a very high production value. Some of the effects when you do get some stuff are really cool, and they're handled really well. And the whole Empty Man, creature design thing, whatever, that you do get glimpses of is actually very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely would recommend.
I'll have to check that. I'll have to check it out, man. It's October, so
it's a good time.
At the time this is out, it's October, so maybe I'll have seen it. and I'll be able to be like, yes, while I'm
Right.
watching
Pop
the
up in the
clip.
comments. Actually, I've seen it.
Actually, I've watched it. It's very, very nice. It's very good. But
Yeah.
no,
Oh
I feel
man.
what you were saying a little bit ago about, when we was younger, when we was kids, and hell, I'd go to the movies and you just catch a poster for something and you're like, I want
Mhm.
to see that, and then you just didn't even know. You go in and see some cool ass shit. I think Power Rangers is kind of like that. As a kid, I don't remember seeing a movie trailer for it, but damn, I remember that poster when I first saw that shit, and I was
Yeah.
like, yo, wait, really?
Yeah, I think my only introduction to knowing that there was a movie was, I mean, of course I watched the show religiously as a kid, but I think that I'm pretty sure I saw like McDonald's Happy Meals toys, and it was like Power Rangers the movie. And I remember seeing this, it was the toys, and because I remember being like, what is Ivan the Use or whatever? Like
Yeah.
that's not from the
Yeah.
show. And then my aunt, I think,
Right.
was the one that took me to go see the movie. And then I'm like, whoa, and here's another thing. This is so funny. And this is probably, this will totally like date us if anybody is, much younger watching. But I remember getting like unbelievably hyped for movies if they had computer effects in them. Because it wasn't a thing that I saw a lot. So when I would see like movies, if there was a trailer or you could tell some character was going to have like computer enhancements to it, like Ivan Ooze with these at the
Right.
time
Right.
really cool computer effects. I was just like, oh, I have to see it. It's going to be the coolest thing I've ever seen because they use computers, to do this stuff. And I was fascinated with Twister because of that. I thought Twister was like the most mind blowing thing to me since Jurassic Park because it was like these, look what the computers can do. Their
Right.
trucks are going through houses and there's cows flying
I
and
think
now
Twister was one that I saw recently, and they were like, "What did you think? What did you think?" And my response was like, "Well, if I had seen it when it came out,
Yep.
probably would have been like, wow, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before."
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because I have conversations with my 10-year-old about movies and stuff, and to him it's just like he's been so you know exposed to just nonstop computer generated imagery. It's like
Right.
full backgrounds, and there's so much of it that to them it's just part of the movie making thing. It doesn't really matter. But I have noticed when I've showed him some old stuff, like I had The Thing on, and he came out and was asking what I was watching. Um, the practical effects in The Thing were making him sick. He didn't want to watch it. He said it was actually making his stomach hurt. And it was so funny to me that now, because they're not exposed to many practical effects, that was actually hitting him in a way
Mm-hmm.
that I was hit the first time I saw The Thing, which was, oh God, this is disgusting. This is making
Yeah.
my stomach hurt.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that was interesting to me. And I'm wondering, I have a feeling that probably would carry in if you were to talk to a bunch of kids and show
Mhm.
them, a
Practical
very,
and CGI.
a very practical effects heavy movie versus a CGI one. I bet you they would have a different reaction to those real organic things.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, one of my favorite that you're talking like computer graphics and stuff from back in the day was Lawnmower Man. When I was younger
Yes.
and Lawnmower Man came out, that ending where they're all just in the computer world, I was like, yo, that computer world looks sick. I wish I was there because those were the graphics we had at the time,
Yeah.
And now
Oh,
you go
dude.
back and watch it and it's goofy. It's silly as hell.
Yeah.
You're like, what even is that?
Yeah. Or like Spawn.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Some of the
Exactly.
ending of Spawn with those computer effects are absolutely hysterical. It's like the same little 3D model of demons or whatever. It is just like replicated 8,000 times, and they're all moving like exactly at the same time. It is so funny to go back and watch that. But when I was 11 or however old I was when that movie first came out, I just remember being like, what'll they think of next?
Yeah. I talking on the practical effects side of things, you mentioned American Werewolf in London earlier. I just saw that for the first time like a few weeks ago. And it was one that I was like, how did I never see this movie? Like it blew me away. I was like, this movie is incredible. But the
Yes.
thing that stood out to me the most was the practical effects. And I was just like, wow, like just the werewolf transformation scene aside, that has not been topped since 1981.
Yeah.
which is in and of itself surprising. But like his buddy, who's like the ghost or zombie or whatever that shows up throughout the movie, like those first few times you see him and his wounds are still fresh, like it's disturbing, it's disgusting.
Oh,
Like here I'm watching this movie from
trachea is out.
1981 and I'm just like, oh god, like it's just kind of flapping, it's wet, and it looks so real, and it's just like, god, this dude is fucked up. And
Yeah.
if they had done that today, it would have been all CGI, and I just don't think, no matter how realistic it looked, I don't think it would have, made the difference. I feel like I've always had that, even the goofier looking practical effects kind of stuff, like in Power Rangers, like
Mhm.
I've always been drawn to stuff like that, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Doctor Who, where they use like these practical monsters and stuff that they look a little silly, but there's something about, well, that thing's actually there, as
Yeah.
opposed to, because CGI, bad CGI. I mean, my girlfriend and I tried to watch the new Little Mermaid the other day. We
Uh-oh.
made it 20 minutes in, and we couldn't do it because of the CGI. Like, and I told Shep the other day, I was like, they gave The Flash all sorts of shit for like its few moments of bad CGI and an otherwise like pretty solid movie. The Little Mermaid was just awful. Like, I mean, they were clearly like lit on a soundstage and then added into a CGI background. Like, it didn't even look like they were underwater. Like, it was so bizarre. And then
Yeah.
the CGI animals, it's like pick a lane. Do you want them to be cartoonish? Do you want them to be realistic? Because like I can't buy into this like emotionless looking animal like singing and dancing and having a good time. It's just, it's bizarre.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like, it's very easy to say, we talk about it all the time. I promise you I don't bring up Jurassic Park just because I'm a fan. But it is always the one that people go back to and say, like, how does a movie that's 30 years old, have better effects than now? And the thing is they don't. If you really look at the computer effects, they're not at all. But what they had was better filmmakers and smarter filmmakers using them. So, you have Spielberg who says, this is great, but let's put it at night with rain. So like it masks a lot of
Right,
things so you don't see all those imperfections. And then, when you get to where we are now, where they're constantly pushing the envelope, I feel like it's so like easy. I don't want to say easy because I will never say that work is easy to do. Those animators have a lot of things they do. It's amazing, but it's just such like the norm now that I think that a lot of the kind of care for hiding the stuff is gone, and for me, it's like I watch movies and I don't want to know the secrets because I'm watching, it's like watching a magic show. I want you to hide those things from me. So I'm into the show itself. And a lot of these movies, I feel like, they're just putting their cards on the table, like, oh, it's CGI and you're going to know it is. And we're not even going to hide the fact that it was done on a green screen. And so that's why even though I'm not a huge fan of like James Cameron's Avatar stuff, the work that went in to give that a photorealistic CGI atmosphere and stuff is unbelievable to me, because they could have made 1,000 avatars by now if they wanted to just go the way that everybody else has. But he is definitely pushing forward to those pioneering, how can we trick people to know is this a real person in makeup or is it not?
Yeah, that last Avatar movie was definitely the last time in some time that I can say I genuinely had like a movie going experience. Like I went to the movies and came out like, wow, I was just transported for 3 hours to this other world. Like, and you can't say that with a lot of things. Yeah. As much as I don't like that first movie, I do give it respect for, all the work that goes into it.
Yeah. I'm on the same boat. James Cameron to me has like a million, well, not a million, but so many great movies, and then it's like those two are the ones everybody talks about. And I'm always like, can we give the man who created like Terminator and did Aliens and, True Lies, and can we give him some respect here and not just talk about freaking Avatar?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Recently, there's that movie that just came out called The Creator. That Gareth Edwards is directing, and I've always liked Gareth Edwards, but I saw this article recently talking about how after he did Godzilla and Rogue One, that basically it got him thinking about like these gigantic budgets on studio films, and his goal was to like we don't need all this. He's like to take like a more indie approach to his studio movies, and
Yeah.
so with the creator coming out, they said they made that for $80 million, which is a fraction of the cost of like all of these like Disney movies, these Marvel movies. And to look at the trailer, it's like, so you're telling me that this is a fraction of the Little Mermaid? And the Little
Yeah.
Mermaid couldn't even bother to make it look like fucking real water. It's, you got one job. It's about a mermaid. Just get the
Yeah.
water right. Fuck everything else.
No, I totally agree. Until you said that, I would have thought that creator movie was like a $300+ million movie.
Mhm.
It looks like epically huge.
Yeah. Gareth Edwards has a gift for scope. He always has.
So I know a lot of people totally shit on that Godzilla. What, 2014 or whatever Godzilla?
I think so. I didn't know people shit on that one.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people that get all up in arms when I talk about how much I actually like that one. And the reason I really like that one was I thought it was a very cool approach to take a giant monster movie and sort of give us the perspective, the 9/11 perspective of what would it have been like to been on, ground floor when those towers are coming down. Very much is Godzilla, Gareth Edwards Godzilla for me. And it's that whole, there's nothing we can do because we are so small and insignificant in this scenario.
Mhm.
And the only thing we can do is look up and hope to not die and hide and run and hide. And most of that movie is looking up at these giant creatures. And I thought it was a really cool approach that he took, because we've seen 100 Godzilla movies where he fights, and it's the same thing all the time in all the movies. He's always fighting some big monster, and it's always from, Godzilla's perspective, it seems like, up there. And yeah, you'll get some shots of people, doing the whole like, oh my God, look how crazy,
Yeah.
But this movie felt like you were really there. And it felt like it was dangerous when buildings were falling. You felt like the debris was actually a cause of concern for people on the ground level.
When that trailer dropped, I remember being like, this movie's going to win a ton of Oscars. I was just like, it looked that good.
Yeah.
Just like that trailer where they do the jump out of the plane, and they
so
set
cool.
the flares off, and just to give you the idea of the scope of that motherfucker, like it's like they're jumping off at like his chest cavity.
Yeah.
It's like he's still taller than what the plane's, and it's just like and Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie. I know that's a movie that pisses off a lot of Star Wars people, but it's like,
I like that one too.
Man, again, the scope, like, and he makes me feel like, oh, this is what Star Wars could be. That was the peak, like Star Wars outside of the Skywalker stuff. I'm like, this is what Star Wars can be.
Yeah. I think George Lucas would have made a Rogue One movie at some point, because I always felt like, you look at George's original Star Wars movies, they were big for the time, but they still had this very much, it was still a storytelling movie. It was still very, very character based, and it was still like drama over spectacle in a lot of ways. And yeah, it had some groundbreaking stuff, but as cool as it was to see Luke blow up the Death Star, which was like super amazing, it was still the smaller scale stuff I felt like that was most memorable for me. And it was Obi-Wan Kenobi being taken out by Darth Vader, or in Empire Strikes Back, it's the drama of that massive gut punch when you find out that Luke's dad was Darth Vader, and his hands cut off. And it's this. So I always felt like, I don't know if George Lucas ever did commentary on Rogue One, but I felt like that was a little more of like a George Lucas style story to tell versus where Disney took it with all these other ones.
Yeah.
It was really just about like how much bigger can we get with these ridiculous set pieces, and then it was just preying on nostalgia. It was really like, let's just find people's nostalgia with Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, and let's just, all we're gonna do is just rehash what George already did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To segue it again and to bring it back to the Halloween talk, speaking of aliens, I wish Split Screen was out a little earlier because for some reason in September in the build up to October, I've been looking for movies to watch because in my head I already have a list going. I like to try to watch 31 horror movies I haven't seen before every
Oh, that's
year.
cool.
So I already got a list going of like ones I want to watch. So I'm holding off on those. But alien movies for some reason really seem to stick out to me come September when I'm looking for some Halloween vibes. I'm looking forward. I think tonight I'm going to watch that No One Can Save You or No One's Coming to Save You, whatever it's called on Hulu.
I just watched it today. Actually, I watched
Yeah?
it this morning.
And no.
Yeah, no spoilers. I won't give anything like that. I will say I really liked it. Like I really liked it, and it's an extremely, well, like I said with Empty Man, it's a ballsy movie to make, and I'm going to say that because they made a horror movie that, like a sci-fi horror movie that is extremely character focused. Still with some really rad special effects, but it's virtually a silent movie. I mean, like a dialogue-free movie. I won't say silent, but it's like a dialogue-free movie. And for audiences with short attention spans like we have nowadays, that's such a scary thing to do. But you would think when watching this movie that there is full dialogue because of an unbelievable way of the actress, you know, being coached or just her actual natural ability to tell what you need to tell with her facial expressions and stuff. And it's a cool movie. It's out there. It's heady, kind of sci-fi in a way. It's fun. So I think you'll be big fan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that one. But for some reason, I'm wanting to watch some Mars Attacks, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. These are the movies that I like to lube up my Halloween experience.
Lube up.
Yeah, I'm a big alien movie guy. That's why when Josh and I were kind of coming up with the idea to do the double feature, it was like my first thought. I didn't even have any other ideas. It was like, I want to do something with aliens. And it's because I hadn't done that yet. And I think I hadn't done it yet because pulling off an alien movie is like super scary. It's hard. And especially when you're not working with a lot of money, because we've all seen really bad alien movies. And then when you watch the really good ones, it's like clear that they had budgets because you have to have a cool creature. Otherwise it doesn't really work. And even in the lower budget films that are good, it still requires a very cool creature, and very cool creatures are not cheap to come by.
Right.
But we got blessed with some, success with Tahoe Joe stuff and Ghost and other things that sort of allowed me to tap into some resources as far as, I would say that our alien is like a Hollywood level alien in Split Screen. By the time you see what he fully looks like, we were able to have a full body alien in the film and not just do, like, oh, there he is and he's this big and he's out of focus, or an up close shot of a hand. We're actually able to show like a full 6 foot plus actor, full body alien, which I didn't know I was ever going to be able to do. And I'm so excited with how it turned out. I think it's kind of unlike any other movie as far as structure and stuff goes and the way we decided to tell the story. But it's a very classic alien design too. Like I really wanted to give people that whole Signs, Gray Man type thing too. So
I always did that design from the tease that y'all released. I think the alien looked great. Just the small glimpse we got of it. But I've always liked just like the simple like gray and green alien. There's something about it. I never mind. No matter how corny, it's like if that's the route you want to go, totally fine with like the cliche stereotype Martian looking things.
Did you guys ever see it? This one always flies under the radar, and I always love when people have seen it because I'm like, oh cool, there is a cult following. But I think it was Daniel Myrick, one of the co-directors of Blair Witch. It was either him or Eduardo Sanchez. I can't remember. Did an alien film like in the early 2000s. And it's called It's called Now I'm Altered, I think is what it's called.
I can think of the poster in my head.
Yeah,
But
and it's like these guys. It's like a bunch of redneck dudes in like a Louisiana swamp or whatever, and they capture an alien live that they are like telepathically linked to because it had killed one of their friends as a kid, like the first time that they had visited. So they like know when this thing's coming back, and they get one of the little bastards and they have it like in this garage, and it's like tied up, and they're trying to
Damn.
figure out what they're going to do with it, how they're going to dispatch this thing. And it's just like weird, like interrogation torture movie, but with like rednecks with an alien tied to it, to a slab. And it is such a cool movie.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, and their alien design is great when you see it. They did a very good job of giving you that very classic alien, but he's just mean. He's so mean, and it's a cool ass movie.
Shep, did you watch that Kids versus Aliens?
Yeah,
Did you check
yeah,
that one
I
out?
watched it. I own that one actually. I own the movie.
Maybe we'll have to
Yes.
do a little switcheroo. I forget which one
Yeah,
I said.
Kids-
Oh, The Guest. I'll give you The Guest for Kids versus Aliens.
Yeah, that one. What I think the Shudder put that out last year.
Mhm.
I think.
If I'm
which-
not mistaken, that's like a feature-length version of a short from VHS 2.
Yeah.
Oh, word.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so they didn't present it in found footage like the first one was, but
Right.
it's almost spot on story wise, just
Mhm.
expanded a lot further. It's just Kids versus Aliens. The movie went much more goofball.
very
than the
Psycho
short.
Gorman.
Yeah, yes, very much like that. I mean, it's what the heck is the guy's name? It's the dude that did Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yes, I was trying to think. I think it's Jason Eisner.
Jason-
Our
yes.
favorite one around here is Treevenge. If you haven't seen Treevenge,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
that's a Christmas classic.
yes,
you know?
that's
Yes.
that's
Fun
another
for the
one we
whole family.
watch every Christmas. We got to watch Treevenge.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
that's a must. Hell,
You're
I
scaring
might
the
watch-
saplings.
I might watch it before Christmas or before Christmas even comes, man. That's one of my favorites too. But
Every
yeah,
that'll be my family tradition. Every Thanksgiving after dinner, we'll all sit around. We'll watch Treevenge to get the holidays started.
this is so funny. Eisner has such a way of tapping into the like very cheeseball
Mhm.
stuff that nobody's parents wanted you to watch, but you'd sneak and watch it
Right.
at sleepovers because it was
Yeah.
just so trashy.
Mhm.
Because I recently rewatched Hobo with a Shotgun, and that movie
That movie's
is
trash. to breathe.
unbelievable, dude. That is like
Yeah.
king of garbage.
Yeah.
That movie's ridiculous, but it's so damn funny.
yeah, oh yeah.
I was actually just thinking of having a Grindhouse marathon and basically doing Planet Terror and Death Proof, but then doing the movies from the trailers too. So hit up Rob Zombie's Halloween, since that was one of the original trailers. Machete, Thanksgiving's on its way. Hobo with the Shotgun. Nice little
Another one
Grindhouse
you should
marathon.
check out if you haven't yet is VFW.
I have not. I've heard of it though.
You would have thought it was done by Eisner. It's not.
can
It's
see that.
from the guy that ended up doing Joe Begos, I think is his name. He did the Christmas Santa Claus slasher one where there was like the robotic Santa Claus cutting everybody up that Shudder put out last year.
Oh,
And if you haven't seen that one, you should watch that too, because that movie's absurd. That movie has no business even being a thing. It's just Terminator with a Santa Claus that it's hysterically ridiculous. But that one, I cannot remember what it's called. I think it's like Merry Xmas, maybe is what it's actually called.
Mhm.
And then VFW though is great. That one's a great one.
I'll have to check these out. I ain't heard that one.
it sounds to me like we're due for another legitimate 25 Slays of Christmas, because that's how we originated the show. Was we did reviews of Christmas themed horror movies, and the first go round, there's only so many good ones, but
Yeah.
in the time, because that was the end of 2020, I believe, December of 2020, and since then, I feel like a lot of pretty decent ones have come out. I think we might get another good go of 25.
I think I want to say, oh my gosh, I thought there was another Christmas horror theme movie coming out, but maybe it's like one of those super indie things I saw, and it's not gonna. be a big thing. But for some reason, I was under the impression there was like a bigger budget Christmas horror movie that was on the way. Um, all I know is we're being spoiled with the holiday theme stuff, and I love when horror does that. When you tap into those holiday things, it's so great, and it's like we thank God we're getting the Thanksgiving one, because I've always wanted that, especially after he made that fake trailer, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, where's all the other ones? There's so many good holidays. You know, I know we have the My Bloody Valentine and then Actual Valentine. That's great.
Leprechaun, April Fool's Day.
Yeah, April Fool's Day. Leprechaun's good. There, L.C. Holt, actually, taking this back to L.C., he actually directed a New Year's Eve slasher movie called Time's Up that just came out.
Nice.
And it's decent. But I always felt like New Year's is a good one that could use, you know, you could probably have some more New Year's themed horror. But the one that nobody wants to touch, of course, is Easter. You know, there's like the...
You're looking at them. Easter Sunday, baby.
There you guys go,
Easter
right?
Sunday 2 coming out next year.
That's perfect.
Yep.
But I was thinking, I was trying to think of some of the other good holidays that you could use, like, you know, a horror movie themed. And
Easter is a big one though, because that's why we made the our Easter thing when we did, because we were reviewing holiday horror movies, and when it came up to Easter time, we were like, there really isn't any Easter movies though that are horror themed.
Yeah, there's really not.
Like, fuck it, let's make one.
Yeah, here we are.
Memorial Day could probably use one.
I feel like that. I think you could do a good one for Labor Day too, you know.
Yeah, you could.
Like, I don't see why they don't like center a purge movie around Labor Day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Absolutely.
And have it be
nobody's
like
to work.
And the
You're
working class raises up.
Yeah. Or even to, because I feel like they always release those movies around like 4th of July, but to just commit and make it like a 4th of July horror movie.
Yeah, a legit 4th of July movie could be really cool too, because you could go so, like, well, you know, there is one that I can think of. It was Larry Cohen, I think, one of the famous, you know, 80s guys, Q the Serpent, and he did a bunch of that stuff. That movie, The Stuff. He wrote one called Uncle Sam. And it's like actually like zombie Uncle Sam, like, is killing people. And so that one's funny, because Uncle Sam's kind of creepy looking to me anyway. And so they did prey on that one, which was good on that fear. But yeah, man, holiday horror stuff is great. And, you know, Halloween, obviously. Here's the funny thing to me, though. We watch so many horror movies during Halloween because it's Halloween, but there's actually not a ton of movies that take place on Halloween. There's not as many as you'd think.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
very true.
Weird. And it makes me feel like I should do that at some point. You know, I feel like you could really make any story you want and just put it on Halloween, and it instantly becomes a Halloween movie.
If Harry Potter can be a Christmas movie just because they celebrate Christmas for one scene, then anything is possible.
No kidding. Absolutely.
I've always found it. Oh, go ahead.
That would be the trick, I was going to say, though, is to make a movie that takes place on Halloween that's not necessarily horror scary. Yeah. But it's like, it's on Halloween, though. So you can let people swap it up. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like you could have a major comedy done about Halloween. I mean, especially with like costumes and the whole idea of trick-or-treating. And
one that comes to mind, it was more of a kid's movie, but it's called Fun Size. I think Johnny Knoxville was in it, actually.
I don't know that one.
But it was like just like a fun, like, kids movie, Halloween themed, where it was kind of like a comedy, like one of those comedy of errors, like everything keeps going wrong, and it's just like Halloween night.
See, there you go.
I was gonna say I've always been amused that the first project I ever put out was a short that I did called A Distinct Lack of Holiday Cheer, where the main character just goes through all the shit of the holidays, and it was definitely like the anti-love letter to holidays. And then after that, everything I've done since, the whole Chase and Shep Kingdom has been built upon holiday horror and all of these holiday things that we do. So it was a funny little reversal that happened there. But at the same time, I enjoy it because I did have that bitter attitude when I wrote that. And I feel like everything with Chase and Shep has really turned my attitude around on the holidays. And now I have a kid, and that's also helped.
Yeah,
So it's a lot easier to get into it when you have a reason to get into it.
I agree. I kind of get a little bit calloused around, like how corporatized Christmas and stuff is, and I get a little bit annoyed. But I've been noticing with becoming a dad and just getting a little bit older and knowing that, like, Christmases and holidays and stuff with my parents and stuff, those become more important because you start learning that you're on limited time on how many more of those, do you have left and stuff. And so I've been getting kind of the weird warm and fuzzies around a lot of holidays lately too, and really trying to not let those pass by without really celebrating. And I'm not like huge on decorating the house and stuff. It's kind of one of those like annoyances to me, but it's like if my stepson's getting excited about stuff, like, then you know what, I'm gonna go get the damn inflatable jack-o'-lanterns, and I'm gonna get whatever, and we'll decorate, we'll do it. Because to me, I mean, Halloween to me is like the ultimate kids holiday. Christmas, of course, there's all the presents and stuff, but Halloween is like, it's structured for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all of us freaks, that still love it. And
Right.
all that. But this is like the kid thing. This is where kids rule the streets for the night. And you are in a costume. You're not who you were for this couple hours, and you're going to strangers' houses and getting candy from them, which is you're told you're never supposed to do, but you're getting to do that on this night. And teenagers, it's like a very big kind of coming of age moment too. A lot of teens, it's your first kind of big deal where you're not with mom and dad and you're out in town kind of doing whatever, and you're caught in that weird thing of, do I still dress up because I like that? Or do I not because it's not cool? And you go through that whole thing. So for me, there's just this really like nostalgic growth moment of being a kid and then also transitioning into adulthood. And Halloween just kind of has that feeling for me. So I get like very, I hate to say it, but it is true. I guess I almost get like a little emotional around these times because of, yeah, it's just the feeling of what I experienced, and I want my kids to look at Halloween as this big event, and we're getting there. It's getting a little bit cooler outside, and we're in September now, so it's really starting to pick up, and all the decorations are out, and it's just, to me, this is where it kicks off like the best time of the year for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, bro. Yeah, I got all my decorations. Well, some of them out. I need to get my Freddy or Jason out. Whichever one I choose this year. I don't know who yet.
I haven't picked out what we're gonna do costume wise. We were thinking maybe like the baby was gonna be Chucky, and I don't know. My wife was probably gonna do whatever, and I was thinking I've got a Freddy Krueger hat, the sweater, and the glove. I would just be Daddy Krueger. And not go like full makeup, but just enough to where you knew who he was. But then I said that last year, I'll do something easy. And then my dumb ass goes to a Halloween party as Guy Fieri with like bleach blonde tips and the goat. And I'm like everywhere struggling in cold ass October looking for a Hawaiian shirt somewhere. And I can't find anybody that's selling one.
That's hilarious.
Got to get a Tommy Bahama.
Yeah, right.
Again, I considered the Chucky for our baby boy, but I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll let him get a little older to decide what kind
I'm
of.
still
spooky
telling
stuff
you,
he
man. Like,
wants to do.
I gave him the idea that he should have his son be Chucky and him dress up as Andy Barkley.
I do like that idea.
Carrying
That
around the
Especially
Chucky doll.
since Belle doesn't want to match costumes with me. But
she could be Jennifer Tilly.
right, right, yeah. My alternative, I really like this little werewolf costume for him, and I was thinking as a matching set, doing like the Universal monsters or something.
Oh, it'd be so good.
I feel like I could talk her into that. I think I could talk.
The werewolf's a good one for a baby because it keeps him warm,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like the perfect thing. That would be good because you could do Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein or Dracula or the Mummy. You got all sorts of things.
They've got that baller creature from the Black Lagoon mask at Spirit Halloween.
I think that got bought up.
I'm
actually.
sure it did. I mean, it was pretty sweet.
It was very sweet, but I know they got like the Invisible Man costume, so
Yeah,
you could be
that's true.
him. They've
Fuck
got
with
a
that
few.
all night.
You
the
could be
wrapping.
Frankenstein. You know.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's a solid choice.
I was gonna do. I thought it'd be funny if we dressed up my family as Muppets, and I was gonna be Jim Henson, get like an afro and grow a beard out. You know.
That's funny.
That would be pretty cool.
But I was afraid that also that everybody was gonna think I was Bob Ross too. So I
True.
didn't really know how to take it.
Well,
That is a good point.
we're coming to a close here. It's October 9th, so you still have plenty of time to hit the Chase and Shep store and get some Camp Chase and Shep merch and be a Camp Chase and Shep counselor for Halloween. That's always
That's
still
true.
an option on the table.
I think anybody
very
who is watching this should go do that.
There you go. Endorsed. Horror Dadz endorsed. And speaking of Horror Dadz, they have a presentation of what was it again? Lights Over
Montgomery County, directed by Dustin Tamplin. It's our first Horror Dadz Presents feature. So we did not write or direct this. This is somebody else's feature, but we are producers on that. It's the most unique alien film you will ever see. I have a feeling it is a very, very wild, out there story. Very, very unique, and I think everybody should check it out. It's really cool. So that one's hitting October 13th on Scareplex, and then Split Screen will be. You'll just randomly find out when that one hits.
Just have to wait and see.
You'll have to wait and see.
And before or after you watch Lights Over Montgomery County, be sure to check out The Exorcism of Chase and Shep, premiering this Friday. We've been very excited for everybody to see it, and it's finally here. It's finally here. So it's going to be a great Friday the 13th this year. Lots in store.
I'm thinking it'll be, I'll wake up in the morning. I will start off with like the original Friday the 13th, get some Jason going, and then I'll go right into Chase and Shep. I think that's a great way for me to start my day.
I'm definitely skipping that first Friday the 13th. I decided the last time I watched it that was the last time I was going to watch it until I show it to my kid. So I will be starting with part 2 and getting my Jason on.
Part 2 is my favorite one out of all of them.
Yeah, that one is solid.
But yeah, plenty to do this October. Plenty to watch. Go check it out. And of course, all the usual suspects: Tahoe Joe, Ghost, the whole gang. You can find them over on Tubi. And
we have physical media too. So if you want,
that's right. That's right.
Get you a Blu-ray.
Go get you a Ghost Blu-ray, a subscription to Scareplex, some good candy, some popcorn, whatever. And we'll see you next Monday with J&M Explorations joining us.
So, nice.
They're in Ghost.
Yeah.